You are listening to How to Get Over Your Ex, episode number 192. What does the bigger and better life look like? Welcome to How to Get Over Your Ex, a podcast on getting over your ex without it just taking time. I'm your host, breakup coach Dorothy. Let's turn your pain into power and your heartbreak into happy. Hello, beautiful brave hearts. I hope everyone is doing well today. Today's topic is something that always really came naturally to me, and so I never thought about doing an episode on it. But then clients would ask me about this or get stuck on this area of healing. And then I literally just got a DM on Instagram asking about this again, and it's not the first time. So when I was looking at the different podcast episode topics that my Brave Hearts inside of the program were saying they wanted a whole episode dedicated to, I was like, this is it. We've got to talk about the bigger and better life. We have got to talk about where do we start when we're figuring out what that looks like? What does it look like even? What if I had everything I wanted with my ex, right? What does the bigger and better life look like even when I feel like I thought I had that? So we're going to dive deeper today on what is the bigger and better life? How do we define this? What does it look like? And how do we actually go out and create it? And here's the thing, building the bigger and better life is so important during your breakup. If you are living a life that is bigger and better than the life that you had with your ex, or bigger and better than the one that you envisioned with your ex, because maybe you didn't even have it, it was just like the potential of what you thought you had or thought you were going to have. When you are actually living that life, you're not busy thinking about them. You're enjoying your life. You're loving it. And there's this quote that I love to go back to when I'm in difficult moments of my life. And that quote is, once you believe there's a future worth fighting for, it doesn't feel like much of a fight at all. And I actually don't know who gave that quote or if I came up with it. I have no idea. But I love a really good balance between working for your future while also letting it flow and unfold in the way that it's supposed to. So the why behind knowing what your bigger and better life looks like is important to your healing journey. If you get clear about what this future looks like for you, it gives you the motivation, the determination, and the commitment to go out and create it. It makes it worth going after when you can see it. But when you can't even see it, you're not even aware of what you're trying to go after, that's when I find we're really stuck in the past and what was and trying to fix that because you think that will create whatever it was that you were envisioning instead of recognizing that is separate from my ex. And once we get really clear and aware of what our bigger and better life looks like, the how is going to be so much easier. So I also want to be clear that the future does not require the ex that left, even if it feels like it. And even if you only have the idea of that future or only dreamt it up because you guys were together. And maybe you were actually living that, you were living your bigger and better life and you want, like that's the life that you want. It is not required, like your ex is not required to have that. They do not hold the magic key to you having that life, no matter what. And I know there's so many people who are like, but this or but that. I promise you, no matter what. I have seen so many epic, amazing things that people have gone out to create in terms of the bigger and better life. And it does not require the ex who left. And I think what's fascinating is a lot of times people give up on that dream instead of doubling down and going after it and creating it. And I think what's interesting is that we stop creating it thinking that the ex is required to go out and get it, and then we prove ourselves correct, right? So you can create that no matter what your ex is doing. It's time to double down, get determined and committed, and go after and create that regardless of what your ex is doing. Now, there are 4 stumbling blocks I see when it comes to understanding what your bigger and better life looks like, because everyone's different, right? What's important to me or what I think is the bigger and better life may not be what is important to you and what you see as the bigger and better life. And that's totally fine. Now, let's talk about stumbling block number 1. And that is this idea that I don't know. People tell me this all the time. I don't know what my bigger and better life looks like. And I'm just going to tell you right here, right now, that optional belief or story, because that's a thought, that is a sentence that's being offered up by your brain. And that thought creates the feeling of confusion. And when we feel confused, we sit in inaction and indecision, and we don't figure out what we want. We don't figure out what to do. It is never going to be useful ever. It is a life-sucking thought. It does not produce anything of value. Never. Not in any situation. If I was on an island alone and I needed to fly a plane, I've never flown a plane before, you all. I've never even been in the cockpit. The last thing I'm going to tell myself in that situation is I don't know how to fly a plane. It's seemingly true, right? I have no background or evidence that I know how to fly this plane, but it would never serve me to say, I don't know how to fly this plane. I'm going to say, I'm going to figure this out, right? If it's the very last thing that I do, I'm going to figure out how to fly a plane, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to figure this out. And that makes me feel determined and committed instead of confused. So instead of sitting there on an island by myself feeling confused and panic and all of that, I'm going to feel determined and committed knowing that I'm going to figure this out. Okay, so just remove I don't know from your vocabulary. Literally, we can do that. There are no rules to this life. What is your best guess as to what your bigger and better life looks like? What's the best guess that you have? And see what comes through for you. The second stumbling block I see is I already had everything I wanted with my ex, and we've already begun to touch on this. That's amazing. Awesome. You had almost everything. That's great. However, there are probably buts in that sentence. We had everything, but they don't want to be with me, right? They had everything that I wanted in a partner, except they talked down to me, right? If you are in this bucket, you are so much closer to the bigger and better life than you even realize, because you already know what it is that you want exactly. And you've created it before because you created that partner. But you have to recognize and realize that your ex, again, is not the magic key that unlocks that life for you. It's like if you were in a Sims game. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Sims. It's like a video game. If you're in a Sims game and you don't want to be with the partner that you were originally set up with, or maybe that partner said they don't want to be with you, they're mean, isn't helpful, they're cheating, whatever. You don't want to be with that character. You can actually go and create a second home, either right next door or in a different block, but you can go create that same house that you wanted or that you had with that character. You can create the same job that you had, career. You could build that same exact relationship except with a new character that you create from scratch. And that new character will be nice, doesn't cheat, wants to be there, treats you respectfully. You can have everything you wanted with your ex or everything you already had with your ex, except with someone who actually wants to be in that Sims game with you, who wants to be living that life with you. There was a man who reached out to me recently via Instagram, and he said, Dorothy, I had everything I wanted with my ex, except she would talk down to me. So how do I know what the bigger and better life looks like? Because that was the bigger and better. And it's like, no, it was not. That was not the bigger and better. The bigger and better would be you have everything that you had with your ex, all of the amazing, awesome qualities of that, plus a partner who doesn't talk down to you. Take everything you loved about what you had with your ex and omit the excepts or the buts. Which brings me to my next point and stumbling block number 3. Let yourself want what you want. Many of my Bravehearts who work with me are unbelievably successful, powerful, prominent individuals. They have amazing, beautiful, seemingly what looks like dream lives. So from the outside in, they look like they're living their best lives. However, inside, all they really want is someone to share all of that amazingness with. They see everyone around them having these beautiful partnerships, going through trials and tribulations together, going through beautiful, like they also are having all these awesome things happen outside of their romantic partnership. They want someone to celebrate that with. And they feel so alone and isolated in their dream lives. It's crazy. They have these bigger and better lives, but they're so alone in them, and all they really want is a partnership. If this is you, let yourself want a relationship. If you have everything you've ever wanted except the amazing, beautiful relationship, don't tell yourself you shouldn't want a relationship just because you're healing from a breakup. Heal from your breakup or your divorce and want the relationship at the same time. Those two things can coexist and are not mutually exclusive. And I talk a lot about reducing desire for your ex, and I want to be clear that when you reduce desire for your ex, you're not reducing your desire to be in a healthy, amazing relationship. You can have the desire, the authentic desire to be in a relationship while reducing desire for this specific human being. Getting good on your own does not require you to stop wanting to be in a relationship. You can be good on your own and desire to be in a loving partnership and share life with someone. And give yourself permission to want what you want. This is so hard to do sometimes. One of my favorite questions is, what have I been afraid to say out loud? What do I want truthfully and honestly that I've been afraid to say out loud or even admit to myself? And if anything was allowed, what would I want? And even to this day, this one makes me giggle a little bit because I was thinking about why did the bigger and better life and being so clear about that happen so easily and naturally for me? And it was because I truly let myself want what I want without any shame. It was all very materialistic things. And I think because I was young at the time, maybe I was naive in the fact that the world kind of looked down on that, or as a society has a lot of thoughts and feelings about it. And I had an amazing, brilliant coach who believed in really going after what you want and not giving in to other people's opinions of what I wanted. But it was materialistic things that most people hold a lot of shame around. I loved going on the boat with my ex. It was literally one of my most joy-filled things I did with him. And still to this day, I love the boat. So owning a boat and being able to drive it on my own is a huge part of my bigger and better life. And it seems very materialistic to some, but it brings me so much joy in being able to gift that experience to other people and have it myself. Another one was making more money than my ex. It was so important to me. I wanted the life that I visualized with him, and that was going to take money to do that. He really opened my eyes up to what we call a portal of possibility. There's a whole episode on that, but he opened my eyes up to what was available to me in life that I don't think I really realized growing up. And I wanted that still. And so I had to get honest and open with myself that, yeah, I want to make more money than my ex so that I never feel like I'm at the effect of someone else financially. And I'm now coming to a whole new level of this in my life where I'm in this mastermind for the next 6 months, and we're talking about identity this month. And a daily question I'm asking myself is, what is the new identity I'm trying on? And we've talked about this in the past in other episodes, and I had been working on the identity of 200K Dorothy. And now we've reached that and we've gone above and beyond that, and we're working on a new identity. And the new identity that I've been working on is I am rich, famous, and sophisticated. And it makes me want to vomit saying it out loud. I haven't even told people close to me, and I have all kinds of feelings saying it out loud on the podcast here. But if I'm being honest with myself and letting myself want what I truly want, I want to be sitting on stage with Oprah, having amazing conversations about life and helping millions upon millions of people with the work that I have. I want to be having heartbreak conversations with Taylor Swift. I love the idea of being simple in that I wear blue jeans and a white t-shirt, but sophisticated in a very intriguing kind of way. And that's what I want. I want to go after that. And the first step to being able to go out and create a bigger and better life is just being honest with yourself about what that actually looks like for you. And it's difficult. You can have a full body kind of like resistance to it because it can be scary to say you want something more than the norm, I guess. So, Braveheart, what are you afraid to admit out loud? If you were allowed to want anything, what would you want? Give yourself permission to want that. And then realize how easily and how quickly you'll be excited for that bigger and better life and how much less you'll be thinking about your ex. And with that stumbling block that we just talked about, I do want to also say it can go in the opposite direction. Sometimes I notice that people want, at least for myself, I'm sitting here saying I want to be on stage with Oprah and Taylor Swift. Some of my listeners and some of the clients that I work with, you just want like a very simple life. You want to enjoy a life of, and I say simple and it comes across as like negative, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but you want a family and you want to have a husband who takes care of you in a very traditional sense. And that's available and that's amazing. And you should go after that and you should allow yourself to want that. That's awesome. And that is so available to you, even if your ex is no longer in your life. Okay. And the last stumbling block that I want to talk about today is not knowing what's on the menu. It's almost like it reminds me of going to a restaurant. Could you imagine going to a restaurant and then not being given a menu and then being like, what do you want? That's what's happening in life, right? This is for those of you who maybe had an ex who treated you less than or treated you poorly, or you just really have nowhere, you don't even know where to start. Maybe you don't even know what's on that bigger and better life menu. So it's hard for you because you just can't open up a menu like you would at a restaurant and look at pictures and be like, you know what? I'd really like that. So if you're in this situation, I highly recommend first double checking with the last point that I mentioned of like, if I really allowed myself to want what I want, if it wasn't too simple or too grandiose, what would I want? And just check in with yourself about that. But then secondly, I really love going to Pinterest or Instagram to get inspiration. I love pinning. And I've made like a whole $1 Million Dorothy vibe. That is like my other reality that I like to check into to remind myself and help me visualize what that life looks like and feels like. Now, the interesting part about not having a menu is that you aren't boxed in. So you can just make shit up, make it up, and make anything up that's not on the menu that you want. Instead of having to choose from like a PB&J or a mac and cheese on the menu, you get to say, hey, I'd like an ice cream sandwich or something that I've literally never heard of before. Hence how Breakup Coach Dorothy was born too, by the way. So if you see something or someone that has something that you want, but there is like one component of that you're like, this is not what I would want, go after everything that they have, but changing that one component. So you don't have to go after what they have specifically. You're going after something that looks similar to what they have. All right, my brave hearts. 1, get rid of the I don't know. If I did know what my bigger and better life looked like, what would it be? 2, if you had everything you wanted with your ex, awesome. Go get that and make it even better. 3, let yourself want what you want. If anything was allowed, what would it be? 4, look at the world as your menu and get creative by making up things that aren't already on the menu of life. Okay? Knowing what your bigger and better life looks like is so important because once you see that your future is epic and amazing, regardless of what your ex is doing, it's going to be so much more fun to work towards it. And it's going to make getting over your ex happen a lot more naturally. It will be a lot less efforting and kind of white knuckling your way through because you'll be actually going after something you deeply desire and not feeling attached to having him or her in your life to go out and create it. I'm so excited for you. And as a reminder, we're doing a live How to Get Over Your Ex 5-day training on June 19th through the 23rd. We're going to be talking about how to get over your ex, but we're also going to be talking about how to get excited about your future again so that you can build that bigger and better life, one that's better and bigger than the one that you had with your ex. And After today's episode, we have kind of a whole new understanding of that, don't we? So join us using the link in the show notes. I cannot wait to meet you. You will have me as your coach for 5 days for only $17. We will be accomplishing 5 months of healing in 5 days. All right. I love you, my brave hearts. Thanks for tuning into today's episode. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe to the How to Get Over Your Ex podcast for more episodes like this. And if you found any of our episodes helpful, we'd love a written review on the Apple Podcast app to help other heartbroken humans turn their pain into power and their heartbreak into happy. If you're loving the How to Get Over Your Ex podcast and you want to learn how to get over your ex in 3 months or less to build a life better than the one you thought you had with your ex, I would like to personally invite you to my next group course where we take everything you've learned here on the podcast and apply it to your life. Come check it out at www.lifecoachdorothy.com.